subway car hummed steadily, the rhythmic clatter of metal wheels echoing through the tunnels. It was rush hour, and every inch of the car was packed with people. The passengers avoided eye contact, engrossed in their phones, books, or simply staring off into space. Among them was Darius, a black man. He was on his way to an important client meeting. As the train screeched to a halt at the next station, a pregnant woman boarded. She was visibly exhausted, her breathing shallow, her hand resting protectively on her prominent belly. She scanned the crowded carriage, her eyes searching for an empty seat, but there was none. Darius noticed her immediately. He could feel the weight of her discomfort even from the other end of the carriage. Without hesitation, he stood up and gently touched her shoulder. "Ma'am," he said softly, offering his seat with a warm smile. The woman hesitated, her face showing surprise before gratitude replaced it. "Thank you," she murmured, easing into the seat with a relieved sigh. Darius stepped aside, grabbing a pole to steady himself as the train lurched forward. He didn't think much of it. It was a small act of kindness, the kind his mother had always told him to extend without question. But as the train rattled along, he noticed the woman fumbling with her purse. She pulled out a small notepad and began writing something with deliberate care. Darius glanced away, not wanting to intrude, but his curiosity was piqued. 3 minutes later, the train arrived at the next station. The woman stood up, holding the notepad page she had torn off. Instead of heading toward the door, she turned to Darius and placed the folded note into his hand. "Please read this," she said, her voice trembling slightly, before stepping off the train. Darius stared at the note in his hand, puzzled. He watched her disappear into the bustling platform crowd before the train doors closed and the car jolted forward again. Slowly, he unfolded the paper. The words were hastily scrawled but legible. "You saved my life today. Thank you. You have no idea what this means to me." His brows furrowed in confusion. What did she mean? How had he saved her life? Darius felt a strange chill run down his spine. The weight of her words lingered in his mind as he folded the note and slid it into his pocket. He looked around the subway car, wondering if anyone else had noticed their brief interaction, but the other passengers remained engrossed in their own worlds. As the train rumbled on, Darius couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the note. Was it just a gesture of gratitude? Or was there a deeper meaning behind her words? Each stop brought more passengers, pushing him further toward the back of the car. He replayed the moment in his mind, trying to piece together the woman's expression, her tone, her urgency. His fingers brushed against the folded note in his pocket repeatedly, as though it might reveal more if he held it longer. Finally, curiosity got the better of him. He decided to act. "Excuse me," he said to a middle-aged woman standing nearby. "Did you notice the pregnant woman who was sitting here earlier?" The woman blinked, caught off guard, and shook her head. "No, sorry." "Why?" "No reason," Darius replied quickly, realizing how odd his question might sound. As the train pulled into the next station, Darius felt the urgency to do something, anything, grow stronger. Was she in danger? Did she need help? He made up his mind. At the next stop, he stepped off the train. The platform was packed, the crowd moving like a tidal wave toward the exit. Darius scanned the faces, hoping to spot the woman again, but she was nowhere to be seen. Darius lingered on the platform, his eyes darting through the crowd as he tried to make sense of what had just happened. The note's words gnawed at him, sparking an unease he couldn't shake. What could she have meant? The thought of someone thanking him for saving their life over such a small gesture seemed baffling. The next train screeched into the station, and the gust of air it brought pulled Darius out of his thoughts. He glanced down at the note again, reading it over and over as if he might find some hidden message between the lines. Determined not to let it go, he decided to take action. He approached a subway worker standing near the platform gate. "Excuse me," Darius said, showing the man the note. "A pregnant woman handed me this just before getting off the train a few stops ago. She seemed urgent. Is there any way to find out if she's okay?" The worker frowned, looking at the note briefly before shrugging. "Unless she reported something to us, there's not much we can do." "Did she seem in distress?" "I'm not sure," Darius admitted, frustration building. "She looked tired, but I just feel like something's off." The worker sighed, clearly accustomed to odd inquiries. "If you're really worried, you could try contacting the police. Or maybe she just wanted to thank you and that's all there is to it." The worker's nonchalant response didn't sit well with Darius, But he knew there wasn't much more he could do here. With a nod, he stepped away, still clutching the note. Later that evening, as Darius sat in his small apartment, the day's events played on a loop in his mind. His meeting had gone well, but he couldn't fully focus, distracted by the cryptic message. Sitting at his desk, he unfolded the note again, his eyes tracing the hurried handwriting. Then, on a whim, he flipped the note over. On the back was a faint imprint, like someone had written on the page above it and pressed hard enough for the marks to transfer. Grabbing a pencil, Darius gently shaded over the imprints, revealing a phone number. His heart raced. Was this hers? He hesitated, staring at the numbers. What if he was overthinking this? What if calling would make him seem intrusive? But the weight of her words pushed him forward. Taking a deep breath, Darius dialed the number. It rang twice before a voice answered. A man's voice. Hello. Darius paused, caught off guard. Hi. I'm sorry to bother you, but I think I might have met someone connected to you today. A pregnant woman on the subway handed me a note, and this number was on the back. I just wanted to make sure everything's okay. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Darius could hear the man's breathing, shallow and uneven. Finally, the man spoke, his voice trembling. Did she say anything to you? She just said to read the note and left the train, Darius explained, feeling the tension rise. What's going on? The man exhaled shakily. That was my wife, he said, his voice breaking. She's been missing for 3 days. Darius felt his stomach drop. Missing? She's been struggling with depression ever since. Ever since we lost our first baby last year, the man continued, his words heavy with grief. She went out 3 days ago and never came back. I've been terrified something happened to her. Darius gripped the phone tighter, his mind racing. She looked okay when I saw her, he said quickly. Tired, but safe. You don't understand, the man said, his voice cracking. She left a note when she disappeared. She said she didn't think she could go on anymore. If she's alive, if she spoke to you, maybe you gave her hope. The weight of the words hit Darius like a freight train. His small act of kindness, giving up his seat, might have been the lifeline this woman needed. Do you know where she got off the train? The man asked desperately. Darius thought back, retracing the stops in his mind. Yes, he said. It was 3 stops after I gave her my seat. I can help you find her. Over the next hour, Darius and the man worked together, contacting local authorities and retracing the subway route. As they pieced together her potential path, Darius couldn't shake the gravity of the situation. He'd seen her, spoken to her, and now, more than ever, he felt responsible for helping her find her way home. The man on the phone introduced himself as Aaron, his voice wavering between gratitude and desperation as he recounted the events leading up to his wife's disappearance. Darius listened intently, piecing together every fragment of information Aaron shared. She's been avoiding people, shutting herself off, Aaron explained. But if she gave you that note, it means she was trying to reach out. You might be the first person she's connected with in days. Determined to help, Darius agreed to meet Aaron near the station where the woman had exited the train. He grabbed his coat and headed out into the crisp evening air, the weight of the situation pressing on him. An hour later, Darius and Aaron stood outside the subway entrance. Aaron was a tall man with weary eyes and a disheveled appearance. His worry etched deeply into his face. He clutched a worn photo of his wife, Rebecca, showing it to Darius. This is her, Aaron said, his voice thick with emotion. Darius studied the picture. It was undoubtedly the woman he had given his seat to. That's her. She looked a little different. Tired, maybe? But that's definitely her. Aaron nodded, his hands trembling. The station cameras might have caught where she went. Let's check with the staff. Inside the station, they explained the situation to a sympathetic supervisor, who quickly pulled up the surveillance footage. The grainy video showed Rebecca exiting the train and walking toward the street. She seemed lost in thought, clutching her belly protectively. There, Aaron said, pointing to the screen. She turned right when she left. Darius and Aaron wasted no time, heading in the same direction. The streets were quieter now, the rush hour chaos giving way to a calmer evening flow. They called Rebecca's name, their voices carrying through the crisp night air. But the city seemed to swallow their words. As they reached a small park, Aaron suddenly stopped. This is where she used to come when she needed to think, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The park was dimly lit, the streetlights casting long shadows across the empty benches. Darius and Aaron split up, searching every corner. "Rebecca!" Aaron's voice cracked as he called out. Darius moved toward a secluded area near a cluster of trees. His heart pounded when he spotted a figure sitting on a bench, her silhouette barely visible in the faint light. "Rebecca," he called cautiously. The woman looked up, her face illuminated by the dim glow of a nearby lamp. It was her. Tears streaked her cheeks, and she held her arms tightly around her belly. "Rebecca!" Aaron cried, rushing toward her. He dropped to his knees in front of her, taking her hands in his. "I'm sorry," Rebecca whispered, her voice breaking. "I didn't know how to face it all. But then, that man on the train, he gave me his seat. It was such a small thing, but it reminded me that kindness still exists. That maybe there's a reason to keep going." Aaron hugged her tightly, his own tears falling freely. "You don't have to face it alone," he said. "We'll get through this. Together." Darius watched from a distance, his chest tight with emotion. He didn't want to intrude on their moment, but as he turned to leave, Rebecca called out to him. "Wait," she said, her voice steadier now. Darius stopped, turning back. "Thank you," she said, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You don't know how much that small act of kindness saved me today." Darius nodded, a soft smile on his face. "Sometimes it's the little things," he said simply. "Take care of yourself and your family." As he walked away, the weight he'd felt all day lifted. He couldn't stop thinking about how one simple act, something so easy to overlook, had made such a profound difference. That night, as he lay in bed, Darius pulled out the note one last time. He read the words again, this time understanding their full significance. It wasn't just a thank you. It was a reminder of the power we have to impact each other's lives, even in the smallest moments. The days that followed brought unexpected reflections for Darius. He couldn't shake the profound impact of that one subway ride. It made him reconsider the way he moved through life, the hurried glances, the avoidance of strangers, the assumption that small gestures didn't matter. A week later, as he waited for another train, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Hi, this is Rebecca and Aaron. We just wanted to thank you again. Things are far from perfect, but we're taking steps forward. And it's all because you reminded us of kindness when we needed it most. Here's a picture of our little family-to-be." Attached was a photo of Rebecca and Aaron, smiling softly. Rebecca's hand rested gently on her belly, her expression calm and hopeful. Darius stared at the image, a lump forming in his throat. He hadn't expected to hear from them again, but the message filled him with quiet satisfaction. He replied, "I'm glad you're okay. Wishing you both all the best." Months later, on another subway ride, Darius found himself seated across from a young man clutching a backpack tightly. The man looked nervous, his eyes darting between the other passengers. Darius thought back to that fateful day with Rebecca. Without hesitation, he offered the young man a warm smile. "Hey, you okay?" he asked. The man hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, just a rough day." Darius shifted slightly, signaling that he was listening if the man wanted to talk. He didn't push, sometimes just being present was enough. As the train rolled on, Darius realized that kindness wasn't about grand gestures. It was about being there in the small moments, offering a smile, a seat, or a simple acknowledgement. And sometimes those little things could save a life. What do you think about this story? Do you believe small acts of kindness can truly change someone's life? Have you ever experienced or witnessed a moment where a simple gesture made a huge difference? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories. If you enjoyed the story and want more inspiring content like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Your support means the world and helps us bring you more impactful stories.